And we're live. All right, what's up, guys? We are back with another quarantine edition of our flat design, wherein we're trying to incorporate both highlights, midtones, and shadows. So we're going to go on along with this quarantine thing. We'll have two designs this week, like I said before. Again, these run a little long, so do make sure you have the opportunity to save your progress or carve out some time before you really get started in case you're having a hard time with that. In the meantime, though, let's just hop on in over here to Gravit Design. Let me just hit this button right here. One of these mice works. All right, cool. Here we are. We're in Gravit Designer. I'm going to keep this undefined, just give me some room to play with. I'm going to hit Create. And let's hopefully the music that my next door neighbors are playing outside isn't too loud. But anyways, what we're going to do is do the sort of classic symbol of the desperate times that we're in right now with an empty toilet paper roll. I thought that would be a fun little design to do. So we're going to involve some shapes, and we're going to actually do some really cool stuff with the fill too as well. All right, so let's start off by drawing a rectangle. Let's find a little rectangle tool here. I'm just going to draw this rectangle. It shouldn't be too terribly long because we're not making a paper towel roll. We're just making a toilet paper roll here. So yeah, let's see here. Right now I've got this set to about 163 by 313. So somewhere in that neighborhood there. If it's not exactly that, that's not a big deal. I'm going to zoom in some, just control, scroll up here, or just scroll up in general. My space bar here, and just drag up. Where is it? Okay, so with this done, once again, this is 163 in terms of its width. I'm going to grab my ellipse tool here. So let's find an ellipse. And let's create a little ellipse right here. So I'm just going to make it as big as as wide as the rectangle, and you can sort of eyeball, how much you'd like this to be there. And so I'm just going to drag this up, make sure it's centered. It should give you the lines here, and you should see a little sort of aqua line form when it's centered with the top of your when the center of your ellipse is on the even with the top. So the little sort of turquoise line there. That's fantastic. All right, so with that done, let's sort of draw this outwards a little bit, so zoom out some, and I'm just going to hold down the Alt key and just drag this straight down with the Shift key selected as well, and once again it should snap right to the base of your rectangle here. So now we have the sort of outline of our toilet paper roll kind of like begun here. So if you're having a hard time seeing that, I'll just see if I can pull this up here. So once again, maybe we'll draw this down some. A little darker. Once again, my next door neighbors has a little kiddie pool on their back patio. They just like to play music. It's great, that's anyways. So I'm just going to select these bottom two right here, and I'm going to go over here to my shape builder tool and just unite, and I'm going to go over here to modify, path, convert to path. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to change it to brown, like a light brown, like a cardboard brown. I'm going to do that by hitting my orange here and just finding somewhere over here that it's a little less saturated. It's somewhere in the, kind of RGB range of, so it's like B8, 9, 868, somewhere in that area, maybe a little bit lighter. So C1, A4, 7, 8 is what I got here. And I'll do the same thing here. I'm going to hold down Control, Shift, and press up to bring it to the top. And I'm going to make this into that same brown here. So I'll hit the little eyedropper tool and just click where it's there. Okay, so real quick, let me just pause everything. And I'm just going to real quick click on this. And I'm going to click on this, hold down Shift, and click on this right here. And I'm going over here to edit, I'm going over here to duplicate, and I'm going to go over here to my fill, I'm going to make this red. All right. I'm going to make this red because I want this to be, off to the side, so let me just double check I got two, good. All right, so make sure you have two, and then when you have both, you select the two red ones, and once again, unite that, and then we're going to go over to modify, path, convert to path, just to make sure that's just one, not a compound shape. I'm going to take the fill off, I'm going to put the borders on, and I'm going to put the borders on to say somewhere in like neighborhood of like 10 or so. Maybe not 10, maybe like 6. That's really good. All right. And then I'm going to click on this little circle up here. I'm going to put the borders on this one as well. So I'll put the borders on here. But I'll make the borders over here maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of like 4. So again, this is me with my 160 by 313 thing here. So these kind of match up pretty well. I may end up putting these on the outside, so I'm going to just select both of these and just make sure the borders are set to the outside here. Actually, never mind, because this brown shape in the middle doesn't actually have any strokes on it. Okay, with that done, what I'll do here is I'm going to take this shape right here, I'm going to scroll out some, and I'm going to duplicate this, so modify, or rather edit, duplicate, and I'm going to change this to a slightly darker shade of brown. All right. And then what I'll do is I'm going to grab my rectangle tool. I'm going to draw a rectangle that's over this whole shape. But I'm gonna go a little bit past the halfway point, so just maybe 2/3 of the way through. And I'm gonna have this. I'm gonna just hold down Shift and grab onto that shape I just made. And I'm gonna just sort of subtract that right there. And I'll just Control down until it gets below that circle there. Okay. So same thing here. I'm gonna grab this shape here, and I'm going to go to Edit, Duplicate. And I'm going to change the fill back to this, hit my little eyedropper tool, and just grab that dark brown there. And I'm actually going to take the strokes off, so I'll make 0 for the strokes. And what I'll do here is I'm going to grab this. Actually, what I'll do is let me just real fast go over here to my ellipse down right there, and just make sure the borders are on the outside. So I'm going to hit the outside here, borders. And I'll do the same thing over here. I'll grab this sort of border here, and make sure the borders are on the outside as well. So yeah, that's probably for the best. All right, good. Anyways, with that done, what I'll do is I'm going to grab my rectangle tool. I'm just going to see if I can't draw a rectangle that just sort of crosses right on top of that rectangle we made before, that darker brown on the side of the tube, the outside of the tube. Hold down Shift, grab this one right here, and once again subtract. Okay. Also select everything real fast. I'm going to make sure that everything, modify, path, convert to path. Make sure everything is a path at this point, so we don't have any random, compound shapes here. Okay, so with that done, let's see if we can't add the little paper kind of like twirls, because you know what they do is they have a strip of paper, they cut it diagonally, and then they wind it around and sort of glue it down and some of that. So we'll create our little rolls with our pen tool here. So we grab our pen tool. I'll get a little close here. And I'm just going to sort of get in close here. I'll just click on the sort of edge here and click over here, maybe a little bit higher, just maybe call this I don't know, see, 30 degrees or so, and just sort of bend it to where it sort of curves naturally around your roll here. And I'm going to make the border, say for instance 4, but the same width as it was before. Get my move tool here. I'm going to sort of alt drag it up just slightly. And I'm going to change that border right there to white. And what I'll do is I'm actually going to pull the opacity down here just slightly here. So the alpha right there, I'll pull that down slightly just so it looks more like a highlight. Okay. So with that done, what I'll do is I'm going to grab my outer little stroke here and just Control Shift and up to where it sort of covers over those two right there. So we have a little highlight here as it sort of dips down. I'm going to select both of those as best I can. So hold down Shift, grab both of those, and just Alt drag that straight down. Holding down Shift, we do it. Let go, and then Control D. All right, and so right there, I'm going to pull this up some. So it hits right there. Let me zoom out and just make sure they're sort of evenly spaced. There we go. Okay. All right, that's good. That looks good. All right, so with that done, what we'll do is we'll go over here to the edge. I'm going to get my pen tool real fast, and I'm just going to click at the top of this roll right about here, and just go straight down, hold down Shift, and you click right at the bottom. And I'm going to get my border up to about 4, maybe 6 or so. And I'll change it to white, and once again pull the alpha channel down to about 50 or so. So it's more like a. What I'll do here is I'm going to take this, I'm going to Control Shift down towards at the very, very bottom, and just Control Shift up until it gets right above that base layer there. All right, so now we have our little highlight right there. That's good. All right, last thing we're going to do is we're going to put a little shine on the whole sort of, shall we say, roll here. So I'm going to click on this, make sure we have this brown sort of long, sort of rounded off rectangle selected, and click over here where we see Add Fill. So we make sure we have Add Fill selected there. Click on that. Click on the little circle, little swatch of black. Change it from Color Fill to Radial Gradient, and then change the outer stop to white, and then pull that alpha channel down to, say, 0, and then grab the inner node here, the inner node of the gradient there, and pull that alpha channel down to about 50 or so. And we're going to move that whole thing down a little bit here. We're going to move this whole about there, and we'll just pull this down to, okay, and pull this down as well. All right, there we go. Looks about right. So I've got a little crack on my screen. It's hard for me to see what's going on. All right. So we'll just sort of, let's see.
All right, that looks good. I might even just pull that down some too. Maybe pull the opacity down a little bit more, like maybe like 80% or so. All right, that looks good. Okay, so we have this little shine on it, so it sort of shows the gradient kind of getting a little bit less bright. And we'll do the same thing over here. Over here, we're going to go to add a new fill, make it a gradient, radial gradient here, and we'll change the outer node to white, make that, we'll keep that about 50% or so. Then we'll have this right here be about 0. So we can have that sort of a shine there. And we'll just pull this whole thing down to about 80% or so. All right, so we have this little shine kind of going there. All right, last thing we'll do, so we got our highlights, we got our shadows, we got our midtones here. Last thing we'll do is add a shadow for the whole thing. So let me just grab my ellipse tool here. And I'm just going to draw a little circle kind of at the base, a little ellipse there. And once you have that done, you can kind of like, you know, fix it to where you want it. So you don't really want it to go too far back. And I'll just change this to black. And I'll put the opacity down to, say, for instance, 50. And then what I do, maybe even 20. I'll just take it to 20 or so. 20. And then what I'll do here, let me just pull this down a little bit shorter, just so it looks more like make it a little smaller. All right, just depends on like what it is that's casting the shadow here. Okay, give yourself a good light source. There you go. That looks good. All right, and last thing I'll do is I'll just sort of get my rectangle tool here, draw a rectangle all around it. You can even make it like 1920 by 1080, so like 1920 by 1080, and make it into a little, what do you call it? Make it into a little background for your computer, and Control-Shift down, and maybe even like, let's see, what we can do here is we can sort of group this together. It's like it's Control-G, and let's see, we can pull this bit up a little bit, and we can sort of center these two together here. Center. All right, good. And a little bit smaller here. That's good. All right, center that. And then what we'll do is we'll just change this to a blue or something, or whatever color you'd like for it to go in the middle there. I kind of like that. Maybe even a green. No, that's probably whatever you want. We'll put whatever we like in the background there. So right, okay. So this will be what we'll call this done, and we'll call this. Let's go save this. Paper roll 2. So this because I already have a paper roll there, and I'll just file export as a JPEG, and hopefully this will come out the way we want it to. Let me just open this up. Hey, look at that. That looks nice. All right, cool. So that's what we got for this one here. We'll have another quarantine-themed lockdown-style flat design for our project on Thursday. So take a look at this. See if you can get this done. Make it look nice. Take your time on it. You got a couple days to get this done, and we'll move on to the next one. All right, very cool. Cannot wait to see you guys produce. Wash your hands. Practice good hygiene, social distance.